climate change, pollution, deforestation. Our world is no stranger to environmental problems, but that doesn't mean they all have the spotlight. Another crisis lurks beneath the surface, hidden from most and dangerous to all. The invasion is already here. The question is, can we stop it?
An invasive species is a species that's introduced to an ecosystem it doesn't belong in.
These plants and animals take resources from species that are endemic or native to the area.
But why are they so harmful and why are they so hard to remove?
It's a difficult and complex problem, but maybe this will help.
This glass of water represents a healthy, functioning ecosystem filled with plants and animals that belong. This food coloring represents species from a different ecosystem. When I introduce a drop of the food coloring, it disturbs the water and ripples. Given enough time, the food coloring spreads, integrating itself into the water. Now let's try to get the food coloring out. As you can see, I can't remove the food coloring without also taking out the water.
That's why invasive species are such a difficult problem, because they integrate themselves into an ecosystem and continue to spread.
There's only so much room in the glass, and in many ecosystems, it's quickly overflowing.
This year, C-SPAN asked us to discuss what our biggest priority would be if we were elected to public office. And living in Florida, there are few problems that come close to the danger of invasive species. The issue doesn't stop in Florida, however. There are invasive species wreaking havoc on ecosystems across the globe. From the South American nutria of Louisiana to the European rabbits of Australia, invasive species are everywhere, and with no natural predators, they continue to take over.
But why are invasive species such a big problem? Nature is all about competition, and that competition is sustained by a delicate balance of plants and animals. But when new species that aren't supposed to be there are introduced, the competition changes, and native wildlife suffers because of it.
Invasive species basically push out the native wildlife because they are using the resources that should be there for native wildlife, whether that is food, water, shelter.
Invasive species harm the environment in a lot of different ways. On natural areas, which is where I work, one of our biggest concerns is just that they'll outcompete native plants.
Now that we understand why invasive species are such a problem, we have to take a look at how they spread to other ecosystems in the first place. There are many ways that an invasive animal species may enter an ecosystem, but one of the most common ways is through the pet trade.
Sometimes you buy a cute little animal in a 10-gallon aquarium and then it's going to grow up and to be really big, and then you don't know what to do with it, and you are well-being and you're thinking you're doing a good thing by releasing it, but what you could be doing is devastating a population that's native.
Plants can spread through the cultivation of home gardens and produce transportation. Aquatic plants and animals can be trapped inside the water ballast of ships and can be released thousands of miles away in new waters.
One of the most concerning problems with invasive species is how their impact interacts with other environmental issues.
Climate change and invasive species are already interacting and are going to interact more in the future. So for example, with changes in temperature, invasive species might be able to change their ranges or shift their ranges more northward. With changes in the ice cover in the Arctic, for example, shipping is going to increase, and so that allows for more transportation of marine invasive species.
With such a huge issue, it may seem like nothing can be done to stop it, but that's not necessarily true. There are quite a few solutions that people around the world are working on to stop invasive species. I'm in Sarasota, Florida, near the headquarters of Lionfish Central, a nonprofit organization dedicated to stopping the spread of one of Florida's most notorious invasive species.
Lionfish Central uses lots of different methods to fight the spread of lionfish and encourage others to do the same. They've developed a video game that teaches about the benefits of removing lionfish. They've created a comic book that highlights conservation heroes, and they even have their own submarine they use to locate lionfish populations.
We'll work with anybody that's doing anything in the lionfish community to help them succeed.
Lionfish in particular are an especially dangerous invasive species because they greatly hinder efforts to fix other problems in our oceans.
You can't have marine conservation without dealing with the lionfish. You can't have good, effective coral restoration without removing the lionfish.
This is an issue with many invasive species, as their constant impact essentially cancels out much of the work that people are trying to do to help the environment. That's why the work that nonprofits like Lionfish Central are doing is so important, so that donations to organizations and governmental taxpayer dollars aren't wasted fighting an uphill battle for conservation.
The important thing to remember is that invasive species are a huge problem that interfere with other conservation efforts.
And what's even more crucial to understand is that the solution starts with you. Do your research before buying pets, follow proper boating guidelines, educate others about the issue, and support organizations that work directly to stop invasive species.
The invasion is here, and every day it spreads more and more. But if we work together, we stand a chance against it. We can restore the balance of our ecosystems and protect the natural world that we have all come to depend on.
Hello, my name is Christopher Torge, and I am the Director of Animal Operations at the Central Florida Zoo.
My name is Shirley Baker. I'm a professor here at the University of Florida, where I've been for 22 or more years. I'm trained as a marine scientist, but I've worked a lot on invasive species, particularly marine invasive species, aquatic invasive, some terrestrial species as well.
Right. My name is Allegra Beyer, and I am the Natural Resources Program Coordinator for the Seminole County Natural Lands Program. And a lot of my job is managing the natural resources on our wilderness areas, so that includes treating invasive plants, conducting prescribed burns, and writing things like management plans and planning the activities that we're going to do for the next year.
Hi, I'm Scott Ganello, the founder of Lionfish Central. We're a nonprofit here in Florida that our mission is evaluate, educate, and eradicate lionfish from our reefs. Lionfish are really devastating what they're doing to the reefs, and our nonprofit focuses on all areas around the world that have these issues that they're dealing with, and we help provide services to help make better solutions for the lionfish.